The attack that I want to talk about is the de-authentication attack. This attack allows us to disconnect any device from any network before connecting to any of these networks and without the need to know the password for the network. To do this, we're going to pretend to be the client that we want to disconnect by changing our MAC address to the MAC address of that client and tell the router that I want to disconnect from you. Then we're going to pretend to be the router again by changing our MAC address to the router's MAC address and tell the client that you requested to be disconnected, so I'm going to disconnect you. This will allow us to successfully disconnect or de-authenticate any client from any network. Now we're actually not going to do this manually, we're going to use a tool called AirplayNG to do that.
Before we start, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe our channel and click on the bell icon so that you get notified when we upload a new video.
First of all, you need to enable monitor mode on your wireless adapter. So if I go to my Kali machine and run iwconfig to list all the wireless devices on this computer, you'll see that I have an interface called Mon0, and this interface is in monitor mode. Now, depending on the way that you enabled monitor mode, this can be called LAN 0, it can be called LAN 0 Mon, it doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure you enable monitor mode. So the command is very simple. We're typing the program name, which is aerodump-ng, followed by the name of my interface in monitor mode. If I hit enter, you'll see it'll start working, discovering all the wireless networks around me and displaying useful information about them. This program will continue working unless you quit it. And to quit this program, you have to press Ctrl+C from your keyboard. Let's see how we can run aerodump-ng against this network only, not against all networks, and this way we'll be able to gather more information about it. So to do this, first of all, I'm gonna have to write the name of my program, which is aerodump-ng. Then I'm going to specify a specific BSS ID or a specific MAC address for aerodump-ng to sniff data from. So my target network has a BSS ID of this. We can see it here under the BSS ID. So I'm gonna copy it and then I'm gonna do --BSS ID and I'm gonna give it the BSS ID that I just copied. Next, I'm gonna specify a channel for aerodump-ng to sniff on. Again, if we look under the channel column in here, we can see my target network is on channel 2. So I'm gonna do --channel 2. So now we're telling aerodump-ng that I want you to sniff data on channel 2 and only from a network that has this BSS ID. I'm also going to tell aerodump-ng that I want you to store all the data that you're gonna gather for me in a file. So I'm gonna say --write and then I'm gonna type a file name and let's call this test. And at the end, as usual, I need to give it the name of my wireless adapter in monitor mode, which is Mon0 in my case. So, very simple command. Let's go over it one more time. We're doing aerodump-ng, that's the name of the program that I want to use. I'm telling it that I only want you to sniff data from a specific BSS ID. Then I'm giving it the BSS ID of my target. Then I'm telling it I want you to only sniff data from a specific channel. And I'm giving it the channel that I wanted to sniff data from. Again, we can get it from here, it's number 2. Finally, I'm telling it that I want you to write all the data that you're gonna capture in a file that we're gonna call it test. And then I'm giving it my wireless adapter in monitor mode, which is Mon0. Now I'm gonna hit enter. This Apple computer is actually my computer right here, and as you can see, this host machine is connected to this network right here, which is the same as the one that you see in here, and it actually has internet access. So if I just look for test, you'll see that I'm connected and I can look for things, I can use Google, so I have a proper working internet connection. Now, we're gonna come back here and we're gonna use a tool called aeroplay-ng to launch the de-authentication attack and disconnect this Mac computer from the internet. So we're gonna type the name of the program, which is aeroplay-ng. We're gonna tell it that I want to run a de-authentication attack. Then I'm gonna give it the number of de-authentication packets that I want to send. So I'm gonna give it a really large number so that it keeps sending these packets to both the router and the target device. Therefore, I'll disconnect my target device for a very long period of time, and the only way to get it back to connect is to hit Ctrl+C and quit aeroplay-ng. Next, I'm gonna give aeroplay-ng the MAC address of my target network. So I'm gonna do -A and give it the MAC address, which I'm gonna copy from here. Then I'm gonna use -C to give it the MAC address of the client that I want to disconnect. And the client that I want to disconnect is this client right here, which is the Apple computer like we said. So I'm gonna copy it and paste it here. And finally, I'm gonna give it the name of my wireless adapter in monitor mode, and in my case, it's called Mon0. So a very simple command. We're typing aeroplay-ng, this is the name of the program that we're going to use. We're doing --deauth to tell aeroplay-ng that I want to run a de-authentication attack. I'm giving it a really large number of packets so that it keeps sending the de-authentication packets to both the router and the client and keep the client disconnected. I'm using -A to specify the MAC address of the target router or the target access point. Then I'm using -C to specify the MAC address of the client. Finally, I'm giving it Mon0, which is the name of my wireless adapter in monitor mode. Now you can run this command like this, and in most cases it would work, but in very rare cases this command will fail unless aerodump-ng is running against the target network. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back to my first terminal in here, and I'm going to run aerodump-ng using the command that we seen before. And I don't want to write anything to a file, so I'm going to remove the write argument. So I'm just doing a normal aerodump-ng command. I'm literally just giving it the BSS ID of my target network, and I'm giving it the target channel, and then I'm just gonna hit enter. We've seen how to do this, we spent a full lecture on it, that's why I did it really quick. And then I'm gonna go back to the command that we wrote so far, and I'm gonna hit enter. Now as you can see, aeroplay-ng, it's telling me that it's sending the de-authentication packets. And if we go back here and look up, you can see that I actually lost my connection and I'm trying to connect back. So obviously, if I try to look for anything, so let's say test2, you'll see I'll get stuck and nothing will load for me. So the only way for me to connect back is if I go back here, if I quit this by doing Ctrl+C, quit this again, and now my machine should be able to connect back and restore its connection. This is actually very handy in so many ways. It's very useful in social engineering cases where you could disconnect clients from the target network and then call the user and pretend to be a person from the IT department and ask them to install a virus or a backdoor, telling them that this would fix their issue. You could also set create another fake access point and get them to connect to the fake access point and then start spying on them from that access point, and we'll see how to do that later on in the course. And you can also use this to capture the handshake, which is what happened in here actually, and this is vital when it comes to WPA cracking, and we'll talk about this once we get to the WPA cracking section. So like I said, this is a small attack that can be used as a plugin to other attacks or to make other attacks possible.